All right, let's shift gears slightly and bring you this discussion. The latest CPI data is out and there's been all kinds of conversations around the repo rate and savings. Retirement planning is seen as crucial for financial stability and independence. As the middle-aged population in South Africa faces the looming reality of retirement, the fear of financial stress casts a shadow over their golden years. There are several factors that contribute to financial stress among the middle-aged population. For more on these factors and perhaps possible solutions, let's bring in Michelle Acton, who's a retirement reform executive with Old Mutual and joins us now via our video link. Michelle, great to see you again. Welcome to the SABC News channel. And there has been a lot of discussions around whether or not South Africans are saving enough, let alone for their retirement. What are some of the most, I suppose, common concerns insofar as this is concerned?
So when it comes to retirement in South Africa, we are currently looking at only about 6% of South Africans, working South Africans, have enough money to retire on, which is nowhere nearly enough. And that's part of the reason we have challenges with what we call the sandwich generation, where people are having to support their parents. You've got a number of different elements around it. And the big challenge with South Africa is the only fallback you have if you don't save for your own retirement is either support from family or alternately the old age state grant, which we all know for a lot of South Africans is not nearly enough. So I think one of our big challenges at the moment is we are finding that people are just not saving enough. They don't know about saving for retirement, and when they do find out, it's too late. And then also we just don't have enough South Africans who are actually in the retirement fund system. So currently we have about 14 million working South Africans and only about 9 million are actually saving towards retirement.
Sure. And I suppose part of the questions to be asked here is, do these South Africans have the luxury to put money away given these tough economic times?
Sure, that's a great question. And I think it is a huge challenge we find where we know that the average South African is under incredible financial stress. However, the challenge is if one doesn't start putting money away towards retirement from an early age, then you won't have enough money to retire on. And I think a lot of people are not necessarily aware of this. I mean, we know for most people, retirement is a period of, if you retire at 60, you could have 20, maybe 30 years in retirement and only a working career of 30 years, 35 years. So I think the challenge is a lot of people are not really aware of how long retirement is and how much you need, but it's absolutely critical to be saving towards retirement to ensure that you have financial stability after you've reached your retirement age.
Yeah, fair enough. How is South Africa doing compared to our peers? And I speak, in an economic sense. When we kind of compare other countries with the same kind of economic trajectory and performance, does South Africa match up to some of those trends, or do you find perhaps we're lagging behind?
At the moment, we are lagging behind, and one of the main reasons we're lagging behind is actually because of this concept of preservation or lack of preservation. So at the moment, when you change jobs, people can cash out their pension fund, and we are finding that has a detrimental impact on actually overall retirement savings, where in a lot of countries around the world, that ability to access savings money before retirement is not allowed. So internationally, we don't rank well, especially in terms of a financial stability and outcomes basis. And that's one of the great things of the introduction of this new two-pot system, because introducing the two-pot system, it won't have an immediate impact, but in the long term with the new designs, we do foresee that retirement outcomes will improve significantly because of the elements of compulsory preservation that will be brought in.
Yeah. I've heard all manner of starting times that are meant to be ideal. Some people will say as soon as you start working. Other people say perhaps think about it in your late 20s. What's your kind of informed advice around when somebody should start thinking about their retirement, if of course they've got the luxury of that time?
Yeah, so I think it comes down to the first time you earn a salary is the first time you should be putting some money away. I mean, I always talk about a rule of thumb that says you should be contributing 15% of your money for your whole working lifetime without touching it to ensure you can be in a financially secure position at retirement. I mean, South Africans are living longer. People are generally living longer, which means it's putting additional pressure on retirement. So I think the sooner you start saving for retirement, the better. And almost it's that concept that even with your first salary, if you take 10 or 15% of it and put it away before you look at anything else, you sort of get used to a lower income. I know it's hard to do, but rather that than getting to retirement and actually not having any money to retire on at all.
Yeah. Often people think retirement is an old people's problem, but I'm sure you all know that, we all kind of linked in this system inextricably, right? So if we get to a point where we have a generation of people who haven't retired enough or who haven't saved up enough for retirement, they actually become the problem of the younger generation. So in a way, no one is really spared.
Absolutely. And I think that is what we see a lot in terms of what we refer to as the sandwich generation, where it's that generation which are not only supporting their children, but are also supporting their parents. And it puts a lot of pressure because it means your average income earner is actually supporting 4 or 5 individuals, where actually they should only be supporting 3. So I think it does cause huge problems. And so it's also not one of those things you can fix overnight. If we change the system or I start saving today, tomorrow I'm going to be okay. Not at all. It's actually a very long-term plan. But if you do start, so if the young generation of today actually starts saving for their retirement, it means that when they reach retirement, they won't be a burden on their children. So it is something that we'll see change through the generations, but it's absolutely necessary to help in this country where we've got such a high level of dependency ratio.
Yeah. You've already mentioned that you reckon 15% is how much you should be putting away of your earnings. And I wonder if you can talk to us a bit more about what the rationale there is. I mean, from a layman's point of view, I know obviously my financial needs at 65 are very different to when I'm 30 or 45. So I imagine that's part of the thinking here.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's really important is every person is unique and different. But if we look at it, when you reach retirement, let's say you retire at the age of 65, life expectancies are actually, once you get to 65 or 85, sometimes 90. We all know people in our 90s. So that means you should be saving to have your money survive or last you 25 years after retirement. Now, you and I both know that at the moment, there's no way any of our savings could last us for 25 years. Just managing it to last a month or two would probably be a challenge. So the logic says that actually if you start putting 15% of your salary away every month from when you start working, so for 40 years, so from say 20 to 60 or from 25 to 65, you put that 15% of your salary away. Upping and downing, we understand life happens. So kids, you might reduce it slightly. As you get older, you might push it up. So I mean, it also, you've got to adjust it to your financial circumstances. But it means when you reach retirement, you should be in a position to replace your income you're earning before you retire with about 75% afterwards. So what do I mean? I mean, if you're earning 10,000 Rand a month before retirement, then at retirement, it means you should be targeting to get about 7,500 Rand a month. Because the challenge is, of course, that even when you reach retirement, you're still going to have monthly expenses. You are still going to have costs that you need to cover. They might be slightly lower than while you're working, and you might even still be supporting people. So that concept of just keep contributing every month, and it's tax deductible, which also is a great win. So if you're putting 15% away, then that becomes pre-tax money. So it actually costs you less than 15% from a take-home perspective. But I think the idea is really that we need to be trying to put away every month so that when we reach retirement, we are financially stable to be able to continue earning an income for the years we have after retirement.
Fair enough. I started off by mentioning the latest CPI data. We know that there's been an improvement, let's call it, of about since 3 years ago. Well, these are the best numbers, the best inflation rate since 3 years ago. You'll excuse my phrasing. But all of that comes off the back of what feels like improved confidence and sentiment around the South African economy. And I wonder if you reckon that really does give an opportunity for people who are considering upping their savings to start doing so.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is that when you save towards retirement, ultimately that retirement savings is invested in the markets. And part of the growth in your money while it's being invested is coming off things like the JSE and expectations. So when we see good news around the economy doing well, that ultimately means your money, A, is part of that economy because it's being invested, but also it means that your money will grow well. So if we talk about your returns while your money is invested, you should be getting inflation +4%, inflation +5%, while your money is invested. When we see the fact that the economies are doing well, it means your money will also be doing well. So it just makes you part of that economy. So it really should be a good time now to be investing, as we know that the outlook is looking great. It ultimately feeds into the longer term into your returns.
All right, sobering but important conversation. Michelle Atkins, as always, thanks for making time. Really do appreciate how you break these things down for us. Michelle Atkins is an executive for retirement reform with Old Mutual. A very important conversation indeed.